Now, on the text line, Attorney Reb asked me, Bo, give me your 3 changes, fixes to Mississippi State football. Then tell me why State isn't already doing it. Attorney Reb. Okay. Well, one of the biggest challenge for Lebby is what already happened. Lebby hired Coleman Hutzler. I don't think Lebby would be on the hot seat if he'd have hired just a Zach Arnett level DC. And Zach's not a top 30 defensive coordinator by any stretch, but he's more than solid. And he's not god-awful like Coleman Hutzler. So Jeff has backed him by hiring Coleman Hutzler, who had never been a defensive coordinator and wanted to run an Alabama defense without anywhere close to the personnel and didn't bring any players with him and so on. That's what's put, Jeff was already new, right? I mean, he had never been a head coach. He's learning on the job. And he'd only had 2 years of experience as an offensive coordinator, 1 good year at Oklahoma, 1 not good year at Oklahoma. And so when you mix that together and hiring Coleman Hutzler, he's put himself behind the 8 ball. He's 7-18 overall, 1-15 in conference play at a time when the league hasn't been good. The league is a shell of what it was 5 years ago. The powers are not dominant anymore. And the other teams that had been good at times had not been good. Auburn, Florida, among others. So the Coleman, I think if you just plugged in a Zach Arnett level defensive coordinator the last 2 years, Jeff would be right around 500.
Yeah. Oh.
And people would be like, oh, okay. Jeff's 12-13 or 13-12. And maybe you want some more wins, but it's not like the flaming hot seat he's on right now. I think Jeff went and got Blake Shapen, and that was a risk because Shapen had a history of being injured, and in year 1 he was injured, and then Jeff ran it back with Shapen when he had some other options. Again, by the time Lebby got there, they had money. In his first year, they had money. Jeff chased a high school class that first December he was there, and hindsight 2020, Selman and Lebby would tell you off the record that they should have focused those first 3 weeks in December on portal. So what else? Coleman Hutzler. Yeah, Jeff's still trying to develop into a good offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I don't know what can be. Arnett will be. Look, Arnett's an upgrade, and it's a significant up. I mean, it's not like hiring Pete Kwiatkowski, but that's not fair. Arnett will make the defense better. The question is it too late? The path. I'm looking at the schedule right here. The path to 6 wins. La Monroe game 1. You should win that game. And then it gets real. I mean, I think you're going to know in September. Then it goes at Minnesota, at South Carolina. I mean, can you split those two? Missouri at home. You need to get that one. I think they'll take a step back. Bama at home. Bama's not the Bama of old. But I don't know if you have the horses in the line of scrimmage. And then the flip side is you were up 17 on Texas this year. And you were up on Tennessee this year in the fourth quarter. At LSU is not going to be a win. Oklahoma at home, I think that game should be in play, but it may not. Oklahoma was not that. I know they made the college football playoff. They were 6th on defense and 66th on offense. I thought they were a solid team this past year. And Venables kind of tripped over some things, and they went to the college football play. Then they got beat by Bama at home.
That's right.
I don't know. And Bama couldn't even run the football. Talking about one-dimensional. Oklahoma at home. At Texas, no. Here it is. This is where Jeff's got to keep his job. Vanderbilt at home without Diego. Auburn at home. Tennessee Tech at home. You got to make hay there. All 3 games at home. None of those teams are going to be like scary good. Vanderbilt without Diego Pavia, Auburn in first year of Alex Golish, and Tennessee Tech. Those 3 games all at home. That's, to me, Jeff's got to make hay. He's got to split at Minnesota and at South Carolina, which will be extremely difficult. Win Missouri at home, and that 3-game stretch. Vanderbilt at home, Auburn at home, Tennessee Tech at home. I don't expect them to win at Ole Miss.
No.
With Trinidad, Lacey, and that defensive front that Ole Miss has, even with Golding being a new coach and John David Baker not being a good OC. That's the way I see it. So if you want to go swing games, at Minnesota, at South Carolina, got to win 1. Missouri at home, got to win that game. Vanderbilt at home, super winnable. If you've done what you're supposed to do as a coach and strength and conditioning program and all the stuff that we're going through right now, that starting last month for the 8 months leading into the season, like everybody else is doing, if you've done what you're supposed to do, Missouri should be a more than winnable game. Vanderbilt at home. And by the way, Missouri's at home. Vanderbilt at home without Diego, should be a more than winnable game. Auburn at home, again, more than winnable. And Tennessee Tech, so that's it. That's your path to, I don't know if 6 will do it. Steve Robertson said 7. If you're going 7, he's going to have to beat La Monroe and at Minnesota. That's 2. Missouri at home. That's 3. Vanderbilt at home. That's 4. Auburn at home. That's 5. Tennessee Tech at home. That's 6. And then you got to find one. The other, like the next most winnable game would be Oklahoma at home. Oklahoma's never been to Starkville, I don't think. Maybe they were like back in 1947. But I don't think Oklahoma has played in Starkville. So Venables and crew will bring in, I tell you what, though, speaking of like, we talk about tailgating and when it's hot as hell, dude, the way your schedule lines up, you get 3 home games in November. That could be fantastic pullover weather. Speaking of the Peter Millar Hell State stuff at the Rogue Men's Store. But I mean, anyway, you got Vanderbilt, Auburn, Tennessee Tech, 7th, 14th, 21st in November. Like, that's good tailgating spots right there. And Oklahoma is October 24th. So I feel like you've had way too many home games in September the last couple of years. This thing looks pretty good as far as good weather and tailgating. Now, you may not be winning games. I don't know. Hey. I know I didn't go over 3 things. I went over several. Look, Camario and Lebby are going to have to, it can be done. They're going to get to work together every day in the facility, and then they get 15 practices in the spring and 30 before the first game against La Monroe. Camario and Lebby are going to have to really, really get going because Camario's still a baby. He's a true sophomore. He's not these older guys that Sam Levitt at LSU, Trinidad at Ole Miss. Arch is now a redshirt junior at Texas. Marcel has now played a lot at A&M. Gunner has now got 1 full year, even 1 full year under his belt at Georgia. Gunner Stockton. Remember, Carson Beck was the starter 2 years ago. So Camario is still really, really raw and really, really, even though he's talented, he's really raw and inexperienced. So I don't know how to do it because I'm not a coach or an OC, but Jeff and Camario have to like expedite Camario's development as much as and they can. I just don't know if it will happen. But also Camario's got to put in the work. Like he's got to live at the facility every single month, every single week from now until week 1. Can he do it? Yeah. I mean, he's got all the, I mean, if Mike McIntyre says what he said about him, I get it. But Camario may be like 2 years away, not this year, but next to really, look, Jeff has proven that he can throw the ball down the field, and he's had more explosive plays than Mississippi State is used to in their history. I know Dan did some good things and Leach did some good things on the offensive side of the football, but Jeff in year 1 with Kevin Coleman, that was, they threw it down the field and made some things happen. Year 2 with Brennan Thompson, who they're talking about, was it Dane Brugler or somebody on Twitter yesterday talking about Brennan could break the 40 time at the combine here coming up.
Dang.
And he and what's his name were doing their podcast together, and I was reading the deal. And that's, you want explosive plays, and you want to be able to stretch the field, and you want to be able to go vertical. I don't want to take anything away from Lebby on that. But to me, where the sweet spot is, where all the honey and nectar and gold and all that, it's the short and intermediate game. Like to win, like what Lane does and what some others have done, even Indiana, man, you've got to have a polished short and intermediate passing game. Okay, because it's more efficient. I mean, I love throwing the ball down the field, but it's obviously tougher to throw it 35 yards in the air, hoping that your receiver catches it and then, makes a big play. The short, and I mean, there's a reason why Belichick and Brady did what they did for so long, starting back in 2004, right? The short, a polished short and intermediate passing game to me, see, that travels. Like on weekends, on Saturdays where all the blank is hitting the fan, a short and intermediate passing game bails you out. And I don't know if Kamari, I think he's got a chance to have it at some point in his career. I don't know if he'll be polished in the short and intermediate passing game by September. He may be, but it may be later. That's okay. I mean, Arch Manning wasn't polished. He got to sit, red shirt. Camario didn't. Then he sat as a redshirt freshman, and then he played last year. Camario's trajectory's different. Trinidad got to sit, play at a D1 AA or whatever the hell you want to call it level, then started Ole Miss as an older player. That's the way I see it with Camario and Lebby have to get going. And they have to expedite his development. I mean, really the way for Jeff to save his job is for Camario to win 2 games, which he's capable of pulling the ball down, running for 28 yards, changing the game on a play in the fourth quarter, and you winning. He can do that. He can run for 100. Look at some of these other guys that have run for 100 yards rushing on Saturday. Camario can do that. But what I can't wait to see, and not necessarily against La Monroe, but at Minnesota game 2 and at South Carolina game 3, what does Camario's touch look like out in the flat, mesh routes, things like that? Is he comfortable looking in the middle of the field and throwing a crossing route, 8 yards from the line of scrimmage, which to me, those are just beyond valuable. Those move the chains. Or they give you as y'all know, they give you 2nd and 2 or 3rd and 2. I know that was long. That's my answer on Lebby. I don't know if it's too late with the Coleman Hutzler stuff. It could have been avoided. This could all have been avoided. But you're 7-18 overall, 1-15 in conference play. So we're just gonna have to see. Let the chips fall where they may. How much did they upgrade in the line of scrimmage, O-line and D-line in the portal? I mean, I think it's a slight upgrade, but is it like, did they hit on one dude on each side? That would be huge. We'll see. Arnett will make them better. Arnett and Camario can make them better. Can it get Jeff to 6 or 7? I don't know. Y'all may need to start drinking Bud Lights at lunch at Martin's in Livingston after I went over that. I don't think I was too harsh. All right, we are the Out of Bounds Show. And we're brought to you by the super cool Hail State Baseball Omaha Collection Peter Millar gear at the Rogue Men's Store.